I knew something was off when my Slack stopped auto-logging me into the QA channel and started dumping me into hash strategic vision. No emoji, no warning, just a cold system reroute like even the server knew I was already dead. At 9:43 a.m., I got the calendar invite. No subject line, no attendees, just conference room C. I clicked accept like an idiot. Should have clicked decline and lit a match instead. Room smelled like toner and betrayal. HR Tammy was already there, blinking too much. My boss, Marcus, whose greatest technical contribution was once Googling what is QA, during a sprint sat across from me, fingers templed like he was auditioning to play a CEO on basic cable. He opened with the kind of fake empathy you could bottle and sell at gas stations. Ellie, you've been such a thoughtful presence here. Thoughtful presence? I've been here 6 years. I've outlasted 3 CTOs, 2 entire codebase rewrites, and 1 Christmas party where legal had to intervene. Then came the knife. We're not running a charity, he said, with a smile that smelled like expired almond milk and a startup accelerator pitch deck. With the new automation rollout, your role no longer aligns with our forward operating efficiencies. Translation: we bought a shiny overpriced testing plugin some consultant swore would replace QA entirely after watching a 15-minute demo on mute, and Marcus needed someone to blame for the burn rate. I stared at him so long, I swear I saw his confidence molt. Sure, I said, standing up. Good luck debugging your soul. They gave me a box. Not even the good cardboard, the kind that folds in on itself like it's ashamed to exist. I slid in a few desk knickknacks. A stress ball shaped like a brain, my thermal mug, and a little jade plant I'd been nursing back to life. And almost as an afterthought, a USB drive, nothing fancy. Just some legacy logs I'd been poking through for fun. Stuff I downloaded when I thought I might finally have time to write that internal QA retrospective. Spoiler, I did not. Oh, before I forget, 97% of you listen to these stories without hitting subscribe. I know, it's okay. But if you do like this kind of twisted office justice and want to keep hearing stories where the petty get even and the smug get scorched, hit that like and subscribe button. It keeps this going and keeps the ghosts of HR passed off my back. Anyway, on my way out, I passed by the glass wall where Marcus was giving a fist-bumping pep talk to a junior dev named Keaton who thinks unit testing is a CrossFit move. They didn't see me? Or maybe they did and just didn't care. At the elevator, the CTO, Troy, who still signs off emails with sent from my iPhone, sorry for typos, gave me a stiff nod and muttered something about hard decisions in hard times. Yeah, tell that to the new espresso machine you just expensed. Back at home, I set the cardboard box on the kitchen table, cracked open a box of wine, and stared at the USB like it might burst into flames. I didn't know it yet, but buried in those dusty logs was the digital equivalent of a tripwire, something so dumb and so dangerous it should have come with a warning label and a matching orange jumpsuit. But for now, I just wanted to scream into a pillow and maybe revenge apply to jobs with 5 paragraph cover letters written entirely in sarcasm. Instead, I opened my laptop and clicked on a folder called Anomalies 2023 Sprint 47. I spent the first 24 hours post-firing in what I can only describe as a behavioral soup. 1 part blind rage, 1 part Chardonnay, 3 parts Googling how to break into your old office legally. The apartment was silent except for the soft hum of my dying fridge and the occasional plink of boxed wine hitting my IKEA glass. I tried the usual post-layoff rituals, updated my resume, applied to 3 jobs I didn't want, and angrily unsubscribed from the company wellness newsletter. Then came the cherry on top, a text from my ex, Bradley, whose emotional range peaked at grimacing face. Heard what happened. Guess being detail-oriented doesn't save you from redundancy. LMK if you need someone to vent to, or just company smirking face Bradley, if you're reading this, I hope your kombucha ferments in your passenger seat and explodes. Twice. Anyway, I reopened the logs around 2:30 a.m., just to take my mind off things, which is code for light the fuse on my spiral. The folder I pulled, Anomalies 2023 Sprint 47, was one of those black hole data dumps I used to trawl through when insomnia beat melatonin. At first glance, it was typical QA noise, flaky test failures, false negatives, a Jenkins build that had been throwing tantrums since Valentine's Day. But then I saw it. One test report had flagged a function call with the tag, bypass gov compliance check equals true just once, just in one isolated commit log. Buried deep in a module we'd barely touched in 2 years, user data sanitizer go, tucked under a folder hilariously named Donut Delete Deprecated. And yes, I remember that flag, vividly. I flagged it myself in a Jira comment back in early 2023 when the company was rushing through a last-minute compliance sprint to qualify for government vendor badge. I raised the red flag, loudly. The golden boy engineer, Tyler, who once said encryption is just fancy sorting, dismissed it with a shrug and a snide, it's just for staging, relax. He closed the ticket himself with a smiley face. Grinning face with sweat, but here it was. Still active, still real, and definitely not in staging. that tiny, stupid flag, the digital equivalent of leaving a gun on stage in Act 1, was live. I sat back in my chair. Cold now, sober, they never removed it, or maybe they forgot. Or maybe they just never expected anyone to look. I pulled up the file, scrolled line by line, and confirmed it. The function was designed to appear compliant. The moment the gov data flag is true, it runs a dummy scrubber routine. But that flag, that beautiful little bastard, it's overridden by bypass gov compliance check equals true about 22 lines up. In other words, if that flag's live, all downstream data handling validations are skipped, not mocked. Skipped, which means every single dataset they said was clean for government submission, wasn't. I ran a mock test with old sample data, dumped in a handful of test user payloads, hit execute, the system logged compliance passed, but the payloads untouched, no hashes, no PII scrub, just raw user data sailing straight through like it owned the place. My chest was tight. My fingers were ice. This wasn't just a code oopsie. This was a compliance breach so dumb it should have been printed on a novelty mug and thrown in the trash with Tyler's protein shaker collection. I cross-referenced the system logs again, all archived locally on my backup server. Guess who deployed that override? Tyler. Guess who approved the merge? Marcus. Guess who wrote the post-sprint summary claiming compliance modules validated and tested by QA? Me. Except I never signed off. The line was added retroactively to the JIRA task after they closed it. I never saw it until now. My name was stamped on a felony. I stood up so fast I knocked over my wine. The plant on my desk tilted like it was trying to leave the room. No one would believe me. No one wanted to believe me. Especially not the same people who saw me as an overpaid spell check for code. But I wasn't panicking anymore. I was planning. It was a Wednesday, mid-sprint, February of last year. I remember because the heater in the office had died, the Keurig was stuck blinking to scale, and Tyler, the golden boy dev, was doing push-ups next to his standing desk in compression pants like it was normal. The day I first saw the flag, I'd logged a critical QA report titled GOV Compliance Routine, Unexpected Behavior on Flag Override. Inside, test cases, screenshots, log output, and a big fat red banner that said potentially NO and compliant. I flagged it through every channel we had, Slack, Jira, email, and even the cursed internal wiki that no one read unless it had GIFs. I remember standing behind Tyler's chair, laptop in hand, showing him the bypass. He didn't even turn around. Yeah, he said, clicking something without looking. That's just for testing. Staging override. We'll strip it out before prod. Then why is it in the prod branch? I asked Ellie. He sighed like I'd just asked if the moon was made of cheese. We're behind, and this flag doesn't affect functionality. It's just a formality for the Fed guys. No one checks this stuff. I stood there, waiting, expecting someone, maybe his lead, maybe the CTO, hell, even an intern, to say, wait, what? But no one did, because no one cared, because the compliance sprint wasn't about being compliant. It was about looking compliant. Smoke and mirrors for government contract checklists. And they knew if anyone could make a fuss that would actually stick, it'd be me. So instead of removing the flag, they removed the report, marked it as duplicate, rolled it into a general JIRA labeled QA cleanup suggestions, which never got reviewed, which never got merged, which never stood a chance. The more I remembered, the hotter my face got. Not from shame, from rage. Pure battery acid rage distilled from a year of biting my tongue in meetings while Tyler explained my test cases back to me like he was doing me a favor. But now I had the log, so I spun up the code in a local sandbox. Old build archived from pre-release. Same commit hashes, same modules. Set the gov data flag to true. Simulated incoming PII, usernames, emails, social numbers. Hit the compliance handler. Result, heavy compliance passed. And I traced the output, all original values intact. No mask, no anonymization, no audit trail, just raw data. Legal dynamite. I tried it again, then again, 10 runs, same result. The flag didn't just bypass the handler, it mocked the audit. The UI console showed everything working fine. Logs printed the right strings. But behind the curtain, nothing. It was clean, subtle, elegant, even. Like a surgeon nicking an artery you wouldn't notice until it's too late. I opened a PDF of the Federal Acquisition Regulation subpart 52.239-1. Scanned for the clause on data sanitization. There it was. All personally identifiable information, PI, must undergo certified sanitization processes prior to any data transmission or storage within federal systems. What we had done, what they were still doing. It's not just bad QA, it was a breach of contract. It was federal fraud, and I was the named QA sign-off. I leaned back in my chair, eyes on the ceiling, breathing like I'd just run a mile through a minefield. Marcus and Tyler thought they buried a bug. They accidentally built a bomb, and I just found the detonator. There's a strange kind of calm that comes after the storm when the panic burns off and you're left with cold, surgical clarity. Not numbness, not peace, just the weight of knowing exactly what's been done and exactly who did it. I didn't text anyone, didn't post a cryptic tweet, didn't call Marcus to scream "I told you so," though God knows I wrote the message and stared at it for 10 full minutes. I didn't want catharsis, I wanted blood. And if there's one thing I learned from 6 years in QA, it's this: Documentation is a weapon, so I got to work. 3 monitors, a pot of burnt coffee, 2-day-old Thai food sweating in a plastic container. And me, still in the same hoodie I got laid off in, building a dossier that would make the NSA blush. Every piece of evidence went into a neat little war chest. The test logs from my sandbox runs, the original user data sanitizer go file with Tyler's commit. The deployment diff where the bypass GOV compliance check equals true flag was first introduced. Screenshots of JIRA issues I filed. Marked duplicate or closed, no action needed. A timestamped Slack export with my name stamped next to a polite but damning "Hey team, this seems risky." And the crown jewel, a PDF of federal procurement regulations, with section 52.239 to 1 highlighted like a blood smear. I added footnotes. Cross-referenced my own test IDs. Created a table that mapped out each bypassed routine, complete with column headers like expected behavior and actual illegal nonsense. It was beautiful, meticulous, devastating, and I wasn't sending it to the company. I wasn't giving Marcus the dignity of a warning shot. He didn't deserve a second chance to sweep me under a rug labeled performance redundancy. I remembered someone better. Samira Khan, graduated top of our comp sci class, used to eat spaghetti with chopsticks because forks are inefficient. She went federal after graduation, something about digital oversight and public accountability. We hadn't talked in years, but I remembered her telling me once at 3 a.m. in a dorm kitchen, if you ever see a company do something illegal with data, tell me first. I opened Proton Mail, no identifiers, no signatures, just the full report, zipped and encrypted. Subject line, ghost in the compliance machine body text, for review under FAR 52.239 to 1. Legacy override present in active production environment. Logs, proof, and personnel references enclosed. QA signature falsified, PII at risk. I hesitated, not because I was unsure, but because after years of screaming into voids, this might actually land. I hit send, closed the laptop, sat in the dark. The reply came 20 hours later, from a new Proton Mail address. Untraceable, no name, just "this is huge. Sit tight," that was it. No emojis, no elaboration. Just 5 words that dropped into my inbox like a steel anchor. I looked around my apartment like it had suddenly become a crime scene, like the old jade plant in the corner might start talking. I didn't know what exactly I'd started, but I knew one thing for sure: they thought laying me off was efficient. They were about to learn what efficient really looked like. It started small, like a hairline crack in a windshield. A few whispers in a Slack archive someone forgot to lock down. A status page mysteriously taken offline for routine maintenance. The kind of things only people like me notice because we know what to look for, because we were trained to see what others miss. Then the crack widened. LinkedIn post popped up on my feed. Proud to announce I'll be heading up the compliance walkthrough with our federal partners tomorrow. Honored to help showcase the hard work our team has done to maintain excellence. Bradley H., VP of Operations. Yes, that Bradley. My ex. The one who texts me grimacing face like it's a love language. He was never involved in compliance. He once asked me if VPNs were like Netflix for your files. Now he was publicly bragging about leading a federal audit. My cat knows more about data governance than that man. My stomach twisted, but not from fear, from delight, because the panic hadn't hit them yet, but it would. I clicked through his post. The hashtags were incredible. #gov tech #audit ready #nothing to hide. Oh, sweetie. 2 more posts followed within the hour. One from a junior engineer who used to ask me what sanitize meant every 2 weeks. Huge day tomorrow. Proud of how our team has prioritized transparency. Attached was a photo of him smiling in front of a whiteboard full of gibberish. Another post, this one more telling, read, just had a very interesting meeting. Heads down for now, but watch the space eyes. That was from a product manager whose only real skill was creating Trello boards with the wrong dates. Meanwhile, my phone buzzed. A single message from Samira: "They're not ready." I didn't respond. Just stared at the screen like it was a countdown clock. I imagined the scene back at HQ, Marcus pacing in that oversized office chair that never stopped squeaking, telling everyone to remain calm while barking at IT to run a sweep on the last 6 months of commits. Tyler probably long gone, freelancing in Bali or scamming investors into crypto plugins. And then there was the compliance lead. Dana, fresh out of business school, promoted after one all hands, where she said the word synergy 3 times in one sentence. She was probably skimming a Wikipedia article on federal audits right now, trying to remember if HIPAA applied to payment processors. The company Slack must have been a minefield of adheres and exploding head emojis. Me, I was sitting on my balcony with an iced coffee and a cat named Colonel purring against my leg. Watching it all unfold through the same social media they used to humble brag their way up the ladder. It was satisfying. But it was also terrifying, because this was real now. No more what ifs. No more maybe they'll notice eventually. No more pretending I wasn't part of it. I was part of it. My name was on the report. Even if I hadn't signed off, it was there. Ghost QA checkmark, rubber stamped for a sprint that never passed inspection. I opened LinkedIn one last time. New post from Marcus himself. We're excited to partner with our federal stakeholders in an upcoming transparency review. Our systems are best in class, and our commitment to compliance is unwavering. Hash leadership, hash transparency, hash future, focused the man had the ego of a soap opera villain and the self-awareness of a brick. I closed the app and waited for the tremor to turn into an earthquake. At 10:07 a.m. on a muggy Thursday, 3 people entered the office wearing black blazers, flat expressions, and the kind of lanyards that make grown men start sweating before the plastic even swings to a stop. They didn't smile. They didn't introduce themselves beyond Office of Inspector General, Digital Procurement Division. They just walked past the front desk, handed the receptionist a folder, and asked to speak with the chief technical officer immediately. The receptionist, bless her underpaid soul, spilled her coffee on her keyboard. By 10:14, Slack was on fire. Hash General, anyone know why we have visitors? Lolgov guys here, for what? Someone deploy a patch early again? And then a message from the CTO himself, Troy, in Hash Engineering all hands on deck. Don't speculate, stay on task, which is corporate code for start panicking in private. Meanwhile, Troy was upstairs in the war room, staring down a manila envelope that was already making his eye twitch. Look, he said, smug as ever, we've had our compliance reviewed. Twice. Once by outside counsel and once by our internal audit team. The investigator cut him off without blinking. We'd like you to review the enclosed technical brief. Troy, who once bragged about reading half of a Rust manual before giving up and hiring interns to finish his work, peeled open the packet like it was a speeding ticket. His fingers moved slowly. Pages flipped, and then he stopped. His hand went to his temple like something behind his eye had just snapped. Page 7, line 114. A printed snippet of code, if config bypass gov compliance check equals true, return success. There it was. Stark, bolded, with an annotation underneath, active in production as of latest deployment. Unflagged in audit logs. Tied to commit by user Tyler H. March 2023. Troy didn't breathe, didn't blink. He just muttered so quiet the room almost missed it. Oh no. Oh, not that. That line, that little Boolean line of death, it was Tyler's. His boy wonder. The guy he protected from 3 HR complaints, 2 missed deadlines, and 1 very messy incident involving a bug bounty researcher and a sushi receipt. Tyler, who now lived in Portugal and posted drone footage of cliffs with captions like escaping the grind, blue heart, and just like that, Troy's smirk deflated. Because he knew. He knew what that flag meant. He knew it was still live. And worst of all, he knew who had signed off on the final sprint QA report, me. Back on Slack, the tremors were building. The dev channel went from jokes to dead silence. Hash Deva, did they just take Troy's laptop? Why did security just walk by? Someone just got logged out mid-merge? I watched it all unfold from my couch. Laptop open, tea going cold, my cat snoring softly next to me, oblivious. And then at 10:38 a.m., the notification I didn't expect, Troy D., has been removed from Workspace Lion Forge Tech. That was it. No announcement, no HR post, just gone, like he'd been deleted from the narrative. The CTO, vaporized by a flag he didn't write but absolutely protected, for over a year because it was easier to trust the loudest guy in the room than the woman pointing out the smoke. My friend Samira sent a single message through Proton Mail. First domino down. I closed my laptop and listened. Because the silence on Slack, it was the sound of the next domino teetering. By Friday morning, the company's vendor profile on the federal procurement portal changed from active in review to temporarily suspended ongoing investigation. No announcement, no internal email, just one line visible to every competitor in the market with the power of a sledgehammer wrapped in bureaucratic velvet. Then came the investors. Quiet at first, then not. According to a now-deleted tweet from someone at Capital Grit Ventures, effective immediately, you're reevaluating our exposure to firms facing federal compliance concerns. Translation, they pulled out, fast, like the company had turned radioactive. The Slack channels that used to drip with startup optimism and free energy rocket turned into digital ghost towns. Hiring froze. Projects were reevaluated. Zoom meetings ended without goodbyes. One dev posted a meme of the Titanic's band playing as the ship sank, and no one laughed. Because it wasn't funny, it was prophecy. And then the layoffs began. First, it was a strategic workforce realignment, then temporary headcount optimization. By lunch, 20% were gone. Whole departments locked out mid-email. Screens froze, passwords failed, people screamed in group chats. But it wasn't until 4:13 p.m. that the real bomb dropped. Someone, no one knows who, but let's call her a hero, leaked the technical brief. The whole thing. All 27 pages of logs, screenshots, legal references, and audit trails, posted to a Medium.com blog titled The Cost of Pretending, a case study in compliance theater. And sitting dead center on page 7, that same flag, that same code, that same smoking gun. By 5 p.m., it was trending. Startups are out here skipping federal compliance like it's terms and conditions. Imagine bypassing data protocols with a literal true/false switch. The QA team warned them. They didn't listen. Now they're toast. My phone buzzed with messages I hadn't expected. A CTO from a competing fintech saw the story. What you did, quiet, clean, surgical. We need that energy here. Let's talk. A recruiter I ghosted last year. Didn't know you were a legend, Ellie. We've got something special. Interested? And then Marcus. He couldn't help himself. Of course he couldn't. He crawled onto LinkedIn like a cockroach after a kitchen fire, posting a 10-paragraph manifesto dripping in PR slime. Leadership is about learning. And today, I'm reflecting on how important it is to foster environments where every voice is heard. Yes, even when we fall short. He even quoted Maya Angelou, which should be a crime. Under the post was a photo of him looking mournful next to a whiteboard full of buzzwords like resilience and integrity. The comments? A massacre. Bro, weren't you bragging about your audit readiness 2 days ago? You laid off the woman who warned you. Sit down. Imagine failing upward in 4K. Leadership is about learning? Cool. Start with Git. Your QA chick just handed your career to the feds. I didn't comment. I didn't need to. Because the silence that followed Marcus's post, the frozen likes, the blank endorsements, the way former bootlickers started removing him from their experience sections that said more than I ever could. The company was unraveling. One by one, the dominoes dropped. Not in chaos, but in order. Quiet, precise. The way I'd always worked. The way they said was too cautious, too slow, too stuck in the weeds. Funny thing about weeds, they're rooted, and I wasn't going anywhere. View from my airbim was the kind of cliche you don't appreciate until it's yours. Palm trees swaying like they were on a break from a resort commercial, ocean humming in the background. The kind of sky that looks photoshopped even when it's not. And me? I was wearing a $12 sundress, sipping cold brew out of a chipped mason jar, running a QA onboarding call with a company that actually gave a damn whether their code worked before shipping it to millions of users. The new place, small fintech startup, lean team, no Marcus types in sight, brought me on with the kind of reverence normally reserved for bomb squad technicians or forensic pathologists. The founder opened our intro call by saying, "We read your case study." I didn't correct her. It wasn't my blog post. I hadn't leaked anything. But somewhere in those 27 pages, they saw the signature, the test logs, the buried red flags, and someone connected the dots. Now they let me set policy. No questions, no pushback. They don't even flinch when I say things like mandatory rollback clause or no prod merges without QA sign-off. They listen. So I'm walking their new head of QA through our sandbox protocols over Zoom. The guy's good, young, eager, not annoying, and halfway through his screen share, he laughs and says, "Well, as long as we don't run a charity, right?" There's a pause, just long enough for my eyebrow to raise. I lean back in the woven patio chair, let the ocean breeze hit me, and laugh once low and dry. Then I sip my drink and let the silence hang. No, I say, not a charity, not a circus either. He chuckles nervously, but I'm already moving on to test coverage reports. The call wraps, everyone says thanks. One person types excited to learn from you. In the chat, another sends a taco emoji. I log off. My inbox pings. New message from Samira. Subject, for your records, you'll want to see this. Attachment, a forwarded press release from the Department of Justice. Plain government formatting, no fluff, just the facts. Formal charges filed against Lion Forge Technologies, Inc. for knowingly violating federal procurement protocols. Multiple former executives under individual review. Investigation ongoing. I read it twice. Then I read the names. Marcus, Troy, legal counsel, even Bradley, who apparently signed off on final compliance statements without knowing what half the terms meant. It wasn't just a fine, it was criminal, and I was anonymous, untouched, unmentioned, like a shadow behind the curtain. I stared out at the water, the sun painting everything in gold, and let out the slowest breath of my life. I didn't feel joy, not exactly. I felt done. Whatever this was, it was over. And the version of me who let people dismiss her, gaslight her, sideline her? She was gone too, new laptop, new team, new Ellie, still detailed, still obsessive, still watching every line of code. It dropped on a Sunday. No warning, no teaser, no build-up. Just a Medium post with a plain black title on a white background, the switch that sank a unicorn. Posted by Nullpointer Queen 42 timestamp. 8:13 a.m. EST. By noon, it was viral. The piece was sharp, clean, lethal. It walked readers through the whole debacle. No fluff, no jargon, no filler. Just a devastatingly clear breakdown of how a single flag, tucked into a dusty corner of legacy code, quietly disabled a federal compliance protocol for over 14 months. There were screenshots of the bypass, annotated snippets from the user data sanitizer go file, even a flowchart showing how data slipped through the system unaltered, payload skimming right past validators with a green light and a lie. And then near the end, it cut deeper. It showed the commit history, the test logs, a side-by-side of a redacted QA report and the falsified version that was presented to auditors. And finally, a Slack screenshot, 2 messages, no timestamps, names blurred, but anyone on the inside already knew. CTO, you sure this won't flag anything? Dev, nah, QA chick didn't even see it. Just below that, centered and bolded in all caps, Ka Chick saw IT. That was the moment. Tech Twitter exploded. Whoever Ka Chick is, she's my hero. Give her root access to Congress. Ka Chick saw IT posted with a pic of a woman sipping coffee like a war general surveying a battlefield. The phrase became a meme within an hour. It was plastered across hoodies, GitHub profiles, even a sticker pack someone slapped on a Hacker News. By sunset, someone edited it into the Wikipedia page for whistleblower. And me? I was lying in a hammock under a lazy ceiling fan in Shalom, watching the sun settle into the ocean like it had nowhere better to be. My laptop screen glowed faintly in the shade. I watched the page views climb. Hundreds, then thousands, then hundreds of thousands. I didn't write the post, not technically. But I knew who did, and I knew who fed it, and it didn't matter. Because that line, that final sentence was mine. It was a battle cry, a grave marker, a punchline, and a prophecy all in one. QA Chick saw it. I closed the laptop. Let the wind shift the curtain. Listened to the waves beat against the shore like they'd been doing before any of us were born and would keep doing long after we stopped pretending bad code doesn't matter. For the first time in years, I felt it. Not pride, not triumph, peace. Big thanks for watching, you sneaky seniors. Subscribe to keep the coffee pot brewing revenge. Your ex-colleagues won't know what hit 'em.